want to talk to you guys today as kind of the song and kind of we've been alluding to kind of all service so far of this idea of Good Friday. What is Good Friday? Why do we call it Good Friday? Right? Like why is it Good Friday? So 2,000 years ago, the most significant and impactful Friday took place. A man named Jesus was arrested, he was beaten, he was whipped, and he was crucified, which was one of the most brutal ways someone could be put to death in that time. Jesus was innocent of all the charges. He stood there as the crowd cried for his death, not pleading to be set free, but steadfast in his resolve to see the job that he was sent to do completed. It doesn't really sound like a Good Friday to me. It doesn't really set the stage for it to be a Good Friday. In 1929, on a Thursday in the United States, one of the worst financial crises ever took place when the stock market crashed and Wall Street completely lost its mind. We refer to that day now as Black Thursday. I think that's appropriately named. On July 21st, it was Friday, July 21st in 1972 in Northern Ireland, 20 bombs were detonated by the IRA, killing 9 people and wounding 300. Today, we call that day Bloody Friday. Again, that seems appropriate. Yet, the day that an innocent man was crucified, we refer to it as Good Friday. Seems a little weird. What was good about that day? Well, I can tell you that it probably wasn't very good for those that followed Jesus. Imagine yourself, okay? We're going to play imagination game, okay? You guys all have a creative mind. I know it. You all probably had invisible friends growing up, right? I did. I don't remember what my friend's name was. So he obviously wasn't that impactful on my life. But we can all imagine what it's like. So I want you to put yourselves there 2,000 years ago, okay? And imagine waking up and seeing the man that you have followed for the last 3 years has been arrested. This man that you knew who only ever was compassionate, who only ever was loving, who only ever was trusting, was arrested on false claims. The same man that you watched heal without relent, set people free from captivities, brought peace in times of turmoil, and the only person you ever watched loved the unlovable. This man is now on trial. You stand and watch the Son of God brutally beaten and whipped. I mean, whipped so bad that he doesn't even look recognizable as a man. I know if you've ever seen The Passion of the Christ, if you've ever seen those things, those depictions are actually not even close to what Jesus actually went through. In Scripture, in Isaiah, it says, by his stripes we are healed. Well, if you actually go back to the Hebrew of that, it says, by his stripe, meaning his back and his body was torn so much that it just was one wound, one giant wound. Not stripes on his back, but one stripe, because there was nothing left. A crown of thorns is forcefully placed upon his head, and then he's forced to carry his eventual means of death up a mountain and then nailed to that very cross. And then you watch as the soldiers mock him, and the sign above him reads, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. You stand and you watch and you wait, and eventually you see him die. I don't know about you, but that doesn't really sound like a Good Friday to me. You listened for 3 years of promises of hope and joy. You hear about this new kingdom, not of laws written on stone, but of grace written on the hearts of men. And you watch healing after healing after healing, and maybe you experience some of that healing for yourself. Now you stand confused, hurt, maybe a little lost, maybe a little disappointed, discouraged, like you just don't know what is going on. You feel completely defeated. Doesn't really sound like a Good Friday to me. Now, I wonder how many of us have experienced this kind of Friday. Maybe you're like me, grew up in church. You've heard all the promises of God. I grew up, I heard them all, right? God doesn't want you sick. God doesn't want you poor. God doesn't want you sad. God doesn't want you all these things, which are all true. And you've heard all these promises of God, and then you've seen people experience healing. Maybe you had a moment of healing. Maybe you had a moment of being set free. But you experienced these things. But then you wake up one day, and it's your Friday. Maybe you don't know God. Maybe you've just kind of heard some things about who Jesus is, or who is this Jesus cat, this guy. I don't know anything about him, or maybe you know a little bit about him. You don't really know what he can do for you or what he can do in your life. And maybe it's felt like your whole life has been a Friday. Maybe you watched a relationship fall apart. You strove and you did everything that you possibly could to keep that relationship together. And then right in front of your eyes, as the harder you tried, it just seemed like everything you did led it to being fallen apart. Nothing you do could prevent them from leaving. Maybe you woke up one day, went to work, only to find out that it was your last day at work, and you were let go. You've got bills piling up. Everywhere that you apply for a new job, they turn you down. You have no idea how you're going to eat. You have no idea how you're going to pay your bills. You have no idea where the money's going to come from. Doesn't sound like a Good Friday to me. But Friday isn't good because of what happens on Friday. Friday's good because Sunday's coming. Not only is Sunday the greatest day in the history of humanity, it also required some patience. When Jesus went to the grave, it seemed like nothing happened for 3 days. Now we know, for us, it was only 3 days. We know it was only 3 days. But imagine you're there. Imagine being in that moment. You think it's over. You just watched this man that you've loved and followed die. You think this is the end. You thought everything that he said was it true? Was he really the Son of God? Was he really our Messiah? You think it's over. You think this is the end. And then you wake up the next day hoping that you were just only dreaming. Everybody had something happen in their life, and you wake up the next morning, you're like, that must have been a dream. That couldn't have been real. You hope that it was a dream, more like a nightmare. But you just think there's no way that what happened yesterday could have taken place. There is just no way that could have happened. I must have been dreaming. You wake up and you think, this is my new reality. This is my new path. This is my new future. And you think that there is no end to this nightmare. See, when we face a Friday, there's those moments that we don't know if it'll ever end. When will our Friday become a Sunday? When will we have the victory? When will we see the promise? I wish I could tell you that all Fridays only last 3 days. I wish I could tell you that. You know, my Friday happened 10 years ago. And I wake up day after day hoping that today is my Sunday. And it can be discouraging. But I'm here to tell you, Sunday is coming. It's what it says in Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. All things work together. The promise isn't that all things that happen are good, but what happens, and no matter how dire the situation is, that God can turn it for good. Friday's good because Sunday's coming. Now, I don't know what you're going through today, but I do know this. If you know, love, and trust in Jesus, it'll work out. The Bible doesn't explicitly say what happened to Jesus in those 3 days. smarter people than me that understand the Bible a lot better than me and know Greek and Hebrew, and they're like, you got to read it in the original Greek. And I'm like, I'll read it in English because that's the only thing I understand. Now, there's debate of what took place, and we don't actually have explicitly written down in the Bible of what happened, but some scholars, which I would fall in this camp. Now, this isn't like, don't take this as like, this is exactly what happened. I believed it happened. You can believe it happened. It doesn't matter. But this is what I think, okay? Are we cool with that? I just lost my notes. I found them again. It's okay. Now, some scholars, which is the camp I fall in, believe that Jesus actually went to hell in those 3 days. Now, whether that happened or not, we can all agree on this, that Jesus defeated Satan, and he took authority from Satan, and he took it back from what Satan stole from humanity. I can tell you that Jesus did defeat the grave, and that he rose again, and he took all authority back. This is what it says in Colossians. Colossians 2:15, Paul's writing this. It says, and having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Not only did Jesus defeat and conquer Satan and his forces, he totally spoiled them, meaning he stripped them of all power and authority. Not only that, but he made an exhibit of them. The phrase triumphing over comes from the Greek word, I'm not Greek, so, okay, it gives me some grace here. Thriambio, doesn't matter. What it means, though, matters. To make an acclamatory procession to conquer or to give victory. It comes from what the Romans would call a triumphant procession. So this is what the Romans would do. And I'm glad we don't live in Roman times anymore, and I'm not a defeated king, because this is what would happen if you were a defeated king. So the Romans they would war, and then they would defeat them, and they would take the king or the ruler or the leader of that, and they would strip him naked. Well, that's enough for me. I'm done. I can't handle any more out of that. Then they would tie him to a horse. They would cut off their thumbs and their big toes, and sometimes they'd actually make them wear them as a necklace to humiliate them even further, okay? And then they would parade them around through the streets, totally shaming them as the spoils of war. This procession was to show all citizens that they no longer needed to fear this man. He was utterly and completely defeated. He couldn't walk or run like he used to because he was permanently hobbled. He could no longer attack them because he had no thumbs and no ability to hold his sword. Then this is the picture that Paul is using to describe exactly what Jesus did to Satan. When Sunday came, it was the declaration that the enemy had been defeated, the victory had been won. Why is Friday good? Because Sunday came. Sometimes Jesus needs a little bit of time to work our Friday into a Sunday. So don't lose hope. Your Sunday's coming. My Sunday's coming. Doesn't matter what I may face, I know that I already have the victory in Jesus. See, we get intimidated and afraid by an enemy that's been defeated, but we just think, like in a sporting event when you defeat the other team and then you go shake hands and say, okay, better luck next time. We'll play you next season. There's no next season to play the enemy. He's already been utterly defeated for all eternity. It's over. He can't attack you even if he wanted to, and he does, but he can't do it. We just don't understand what Christ has actually done in those moments, so we allow Satan to have control over our thoughts and our beliefs. And we believe that he can attack us. We believe that he has control. We believe that our Fridays are never going to end. But I'm here to tell you, Sunday's coming. I want to remind you of this. You might have experienced a Friday. You might be in Friday. Friday might have been yesterday, or Friday might have been 10 years ago, and you're still walking, and you're wondering when Sunday's coming, and you're still waiting for your Sunday. Do not give up. One of the best advice, and it's not Bible, but it's gotten me through a lot of the moments of my lowest, going through my sickness and what I've dealt with, and when I was at the worst and lowest point, when I felt like, I'm ready just to wake up and be with Jesus, that'd be great. That'd be actually the best possible solution right now for the best thing that I ever heard was from a pastor, and he said, hey, don't give up on God. because he's not going to give up on you. I don't know what you're going through, but don't give up on God, because he's not going to give up on you. Don't throw in the towel. Sunday is coming. Remind yourself of all the things that Christ has already done for you. Think of where God has taken you already and where you are now. Think of all the good things that God has done in your life. Remember those things. Think back to another Friday that God turned into a good Friday. Remind yourself that he's already delivered you from what he has already set you free from. I'm telling you, if he did it once, he will do it again. Just like it says in Romans, that he works all things together for good to those that love God. No matter how bad it seems, God can work it out. No matter how dire the situation is, no matter how bad you think your Friday has been, it's not worse than what took place 2,000 years ago. I'm telling you here, Sunday's coming. Your Sunday is coming. Maybe you've already experienced a Sunday and you need another Sunday. Sunday is coming. Okay, so I want to ask you one question. Can you trust him today? Can you trust that he can turn your Friday into a Sunday? You know, one of the stipulations, I guess you could call it, with Romans says that he works all things together for good to those that love God, to those that are called according to his purpose. The only stipulation that you have to have in order for him to turn your bad into the good is that you trust in him to turn your bad into the good. That you've made the declarations like, I'm going to follow this man. Jesus is going to be my king. Jesus is going to be my Lord.